Undefeated lightweight prospect Max Rohskopf. What's going on, Max? I see you're outside. It's nighttime. How are you living?
It's good. Just hanging out. It's out in Vegas right now. It's like I don't even know how hot it is, but at night it gets pretty. It's pretty nice. During the days though, you don't really. You kind of sprint in your car to get in it and turn the AC on. It's so hot.
Well, it's good that the UFC's back in town, right? It must be different right now.
Yeah. So actually, I got a call this morning. So Kevin Holland pulled out of the Daniel Rodriguez fight with an injury, and my manager Byron Butler called me this morning. I like just woken up. I was like barely awake yet. I hadn't had any caffeine yet, and called me. He was like, "Hey, like, what do you weigh, and have you been able to train through all this?" I'm like, "I haven't missed a day since all this thing started. I got my own little group, so I haven't been able to. I mean, I've been able to train pretty much nonstop." And he called me. He was like, "Hey, would you want to take this Daniel Rodriguez fight? I'm gonna try to get you in." And he was just like, and I without even the only thing I asked, I was like, "Well, what?" I didn't know who he was. I was like, "Well, what's he good at?" And he was like, uh, he's a striker dominantly. And I was like, "All right, bet, let's go." Then it, and I just said yes, and then that was the conversation. Then I think he tried to get it for me, but then I think they had a 70-pounder prospect take it instead of me moving up. So didn't get that. I was actually hoping to fight this weekend, and turns out I'm not. So pretty bummed about that, but I was ready to go.
Well, there's gonna be a couple more cards coming up in the next
Yeah,
couple of weeks, the next couple of months in Vegas, so they know who you are. And, you're willing to take a fight at 170, so that's great.
yeah, yeah. No, that's what the biggest thing. I thought it was a long shot for them. I'm sure there's 70-pounders that they would want, that are prospects at 70 pounds, that they would probably want to get in. So I knew it was a long shot, but I just wanted to kind of put my name out there so they know I'm down to take a fight on. At 70, I just need a day. I don't got to make weight. If it's 55, I probably just need like a day and a half, and I'm good to go.
Definitely. Well, you're right down the road, so that's perfect, man. Now now you're from Ohio, and I saw a little documentary piece that you did, and you're talking about you living in the middle of a cornfield in a trailer. What was life? Describe like life as a kid, a young kid in that environment.
Yeah, so my parents got divorced when I was like 5 years old.
Mm.
After I mean, I kind of like look back and like I'll mess with my mom and be like, "Hey, like I don't think you were the smartest person, like marrying my dad
Mhm.
and creating me. Like it just wasn't. He just wasn't a good person." And then but he had him and his the whole family. He inherited the family farm, and they were like, and he's a construction worker that built houses, like two, three, $500,000 houses by himself. Like he didn't have a crew, so he would literally build these houses and then take all the profit. So he had a lot of money, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom from the time she was like 19. And so when they got divorced, after my dad actually held us at gunpoint, me and my mom and my brothers, she was kind of left with nothing and three kids, no job, no higher education, no anything. So, and then because my dad had all the money, he was winning like the court cases to see us. And I don't really like. I have like a lot of disdain for at least like the law enforcement and where I'm from. Not necessarily all over the country, but where I'm from, they're pieces of dog shit. And so I was going back and forth between my mom and my dad pretty much every week. And my dad was always like, I was so young, I didn't realize like all the stuff he did was like so terrible. All I saw is that he was always like buying us shit and like letting us ride four wheelers and doing all this cool shit. And then when we were with our mom, we barely had money to eat. So like there for a little bit, I was always like leaning more towards my dad, because I didn't know, like I didn't really like, because when you grow up in like a bad situation like that, you don't really know what's right and what's wrong. You're gonna learn what's happening. And I just thought like how my dad treated my mom, like I almost thought like that happened in every family. Like I thought that was normal. And then as I started to get older, I started to have friends. I started to hang out with people. I started wrestling. I started seeing things. I realized that's not right. And then once I was about 12 or 13, I can't remember exactly when, but I kind of like I cut my dad out. He was still legally supposed to see us, and I told my mom, I told him, and I told the judges or whatever. I was like, I'm not going over there, and you literally cannot make me see him. And once I did that, one of my brothers, well, both of them a little kind of followed suit, because my both younger brothers kind of just did what I did. And then we just pretty much just stayed with my mom. And then that's when I started wrestling. And a lot of it was just like, I remember, I got a job once I was 15, so I could have gas money to go travel an hour and a half just to go to wrestling practice. And we just didn't have a lot of money there for a while. And then my mom ended up, after several years, getting a good job, and then we started to do a little bit better. But until I was like 15, 16, it was like ketchup sandwiches, cereal for dinner, not a lot of money. And I've always had high expectations for everything, even now. And then I remember just being like an asshole with my mom when I'm like 12 years old and we're living like shit. And I'm like pushing her to want to do better, because I was like, I don't know, I was a weird kid. I was just like always like asking her like, hey, can you go get a better job? Can you work harder? Stuff like that. And in hindsight, I was kind of being an asshole, but I think it worked out for the best.
Yeah, well, it builds character, right? Going through all of
Yeah.
that stuff at a young age and being able and supporting yourself and earning your own money. Because a lot of kids, they don't do that. Even I think nowadays,
Yeah.
kids rarely do that, right?
Yeah, no, I don't. And here's so like because we got some kids training at the gym now at Drysdale's, and like we can't, like, some of them show up sometimes, some of them they're all kind of inconsistent, right? And I just like, I'll tell them like, hey, like, I would have killed someone. I dead ass would have fucking. You tell me I could get away without have killed someone to get the type of training 10 minutes from my house that you're getting right now. When I was 12 years old, like, I knew what I wanted. And I think that's like, as far as like being like lucky or talented, I think that's the one thing that I've always had inside me. It's never been like super great athleticism or super smart or anything like that. I've had that kind of like weird drive, I guess. And I don't know I don't know if that was built through what I went through or what, but I do think things have to be hard for you to be successful. Like, I have some friends that were like pretty well off financially and stuff, but in their head, they convinced themselves that they were in a shitty situation, and that created their work ethic. And from the outside looking in, I'm like, bro, your parents make $100,000 a year. That's how much my mom made in 10. Like, it's not the same, but they still convinced themselves that they weren't in a good situation and stuff, and then they had to work their ass off to get out of it, and now they're super successful and stuff like that. So especially now that I teach kids and I'm around a lot of kids and helping train some kids, I'm super hard on them, because I know, like, especially at home, they're probably nothing's hard. And you got to have that adversity, you got to have that hard shit to really build those building blocks.
Yeah. You know, those are the best teachers, man. Now you get into wrestling at a young age, you grind, Division 1, North Carolina State. You're wrestling over there, successful. Who comes up to you and says, "Hey, what are you gonna do afterwards? You want to fight?"
Yeah. So once I until like my senior year of high school, I didn't think it was going to be like a possibility that I wrestle in college, because where I grow up, everyone tells us like, oh, you guys don't have the genetics, you guys don't realize how hard Division 1 sports is, blah blah blah. And then I've just always been stubborn and not listen to people, right? And I was like, yeah, no, I think I can do it. And then I actually fractured my vertebrae my junior year of high school, and so I was out for like 9 months in a back brace. And then 2 weeks before this like preseason national tournament, I decided I got cleared and I was gonna go wrestle in it. And then I didn't practice. Like, I practiced like one time maybe wrestling, and the rest I just ran the cut weight and stuff. Cut weight, end up winning the tournament. And then on our way back, I'm talking to my best friend Jacob Casper, and he's like doing all this like recruiting stuff, and like he's getting recruited and like reaching out to colleges and stuff. And I'm like, hey, do you guys think you could help me out with that? And then they helped me out with it. I ended up going to NC State. And then once, like, before all that, I thought I was just going to go to a community college and be a gym teacher at my high school in my hometown. Like, that's what I thought. That's where my goals were at. And that's what I thought was realistic. And then once I got to NC State, I'm around all these high level athletes, and I just didn't know, like, I was never really, I couldn't pick a major. I wasn't sure. I thought I wanted to do like nutrition science because I'm really into food. But then like I started doing that, and then I realized like the classes are like super hard. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. So I just started to pick sport management, something that I could do and that was easy and keep me eligible so I could wrestle, right? And then once I was just really focused on wrestling, and then Sean Spangler actually came in. So he was an alumni at NC State, black belt under Robert Drysdale. He came in and wrestled with us my freshman year of college, and basically he just moved back out from Vegas. He invited us to come train jiu-jitsu at his new gym, and then I was the only one that really took him up on it. And I started talking to him, like we're hanging out, and we would like, I would show up, class would start at like 7 or 8, and then class would be done in about 2.5 hours, and then me and him would stay and roll until like 11 or 12 o'clock at night because we're just like both weirdos. And like I think both of us just didn't want to quit. Like we were trying to see who would quit first. And so we were always doing that shit where it was just like a 2-hour grind match with maybe like every 10 minutes we'd take a break or whatever for like a minute or two. But we would roll until like 11 or 12, and then I would get to talking to him, and he was around a lot of guys at Extreme Couture and like Martin Kampman, and was telling me stories about fighting. And he was like, hey, like if you want to do this, I think I could help you. And so I started training jiu-jitsu with him, expressed that interest to my coaches at NC State, and they just so happened, one of the big, I don't know what you'd call them, like sponsors or donors to the Division I program is actually the owner of Oak Grove Technologies, Mark Gross. And he was, from what I understand, he's one of the big sponsors at AKA. And some of the guys that were, a lot of guys who were UFC champions in like from like 2010 to like 2015, 16, like had a big part of the career of like Josh Koscheck, DC, Luke Rockhold, all those guys. And so I expressed that interest in my coaches. They talked to Mark, and Mark actually kind of set it up so I was able to at least go out and try to train with Josh Koscheck at Dethrone. And so that was the first experience I had sparring, whereas I got thrown in there with like Chris Honeycutt and Josh Koscheck with little jiu-jitsu, very, very basic boxing, and then wrestling. And I got to spar with some of the best guys in the world at the time. And so that was really cool. And then still just mainly focusing on wrestling in the summers. I was doing jiu-jitsu. I would wake up, lift, go to the boxing gym. I had I don't know how many people know him, but Remy Fullwood, who was my boxing coach in Raleigh. He's awesome. And then I would go to wrestling practice, and then I would go to jiu-jitsu practice at night, and that was pretty much my summers when I was in college. But yeah, I just had like a lot of people. Really, there wasn't one, but I think the one person that kind of changed the trajectory of what I was gonna do was Sean.
Wow, so that is the whole connection with Zenith and Extreme Couture and you know, sparring Josh Koscheck in your first sessions is pretty insane.
And it was Chris Honeycutt, who was like, he was undefeated at the time, and was like, he had a lot of hype on him, and I was like just throwing bombs and trying to tackle him. I didn't know anything. I was just throwing as hard as I could and like double leg. And then I scrambled well. I've always been scrambly, so I was doing okay, but it was just like on endurance and wrestling, really.
So, you know, speaking of scrambles, man, you have great scrambles, great control on the ground. We know that because all your wins are submissions. The neck is not safe around you. Is that like the target that everybody has when you see them inside the cage across from you?
You know, so like in my last fight, I kind of like, I think the one knock on me and is people haven't seen a lot of me. Like, it's not good that all my fights I haven't been touched and I just choke them out. People don't really, I think that's seen as a bad thing. And I just really take what they give me. And in my last fight, I was kind of like, I wanted to take my time and kind of not show off, but I wanted to show some more skill sets. But I inside leg kick him, he puts his head down. I'm gonna choke you out. Like, it doesn't matter really. Especially if you haven't. I think if like you haven't felt it before, I think I'm just like on a different level as far as certain techniques go, especially with the front headlock, the guillotines, the darces and stuff. That like these guys, like the guy was a black belt and like he trains at American Top Team. Like, these guys think they know what a high level is, at least in certain positions. They're like, oh, I train with so and so. I know how to stop this or that, but they don't realize that there's a different like strength and level to it that they don't realize is there until we're fighting, and now you can't practice for it, you can't adjust for it or anything like that. But I'm excited to show some different skill sets down the road that I have and I've been working on for years. I just haven't had to show it yet.
You have this high level of wrestling, and then you've shown, the high level of jiu-jitsu, and this combination, it seems like it's something new. There's guys out there that are great submission artists, but they're mostly on the jiu-jitsu side, right? They don't have that big like wrestling background. Do you feel like you're like a new breed coming up?
Yeah, I do. I think I'm going to be like the first of what I think the norm is going to be. I don't know how long it's going to take to catch up. I think it's going to take a lot of these college wrestlers being humble enough to learn jiu-jitsu for what it is. A lot of guys don't. And it was hard for me too. Like, when you're one of the best guys in the country at one sport and you go to another sport that's very similar but not the same, and you suck at it, it's very hard. It's very hard to do. And I think a lot of these guys just they have like a superiority complex. Jiu-jitsu and wrestlers both, they think one is better than the other. I don't see it like that. I see it as I can use them both together. And like, even now when I'm training, like if I'm going with like more of a wrestler guy, I tend to do more jitsi stuff because he doesn't know what's happening. And if I'm going with a more jitsi guy, I tend to do more wrestling because they don't know what's happening either. And I just think that's the best way to do it. I don't think I think guys spend not enough time on their skill work and live. They do, especially just in MMA, at least they spend too much time on their strength and conditioning and striking. And I know guys a lot of guys that I've trained with throughout the years, they do a lot of strength conditioning, a lot of pad work, a lot of striking, and then they do jiu-jitsu once a week and they do wrestling once a week. And I'm striking once a day. I'm doing some type of grappling once a day. And I do strength conditioning as normal, but I probably train my grappling 5 times a week more than most of these guys. And that's just math. Once I get a hold of them, if they've been doing that their whole life or their whole career, and I've been doing this my whole career, when I grab them, it's over. It's just math. They can't. I put too much time into it.
The UFC is, of course, the promotion that you're looking at. What are your expectations outside of becoming the champion when you enter the promotion?
I just want to build a platform that I would be able to do what I would want to do after. I don't know exactly what I want to do after. I have thoughts and ideas and like big dreams and stuff like that, but I don't really know how that's all going to play out. I would like to be able to maybe do some acting or something fun afterwards, or maybe I used to think I wanted to own a gym, but after being around some of that stuff, I don't really want anything to do with that now. So yeah, I don't really. I have some plans. I'd want to start maybe a business or two, maybe sell some stuff. I don't know, but I used to want to have things planned out. I used to have my MMA career planned out, and then I turned pro, and now I couldn't get. I've had 5 fights in 2.5 years, and I thought I'd have like 15 by now. So it's very hard to plan stuff like that because a lot of it's not in my control. But yeah, I'll just like make a platform to make a difference.
Well, it seems like that's kind of like your life story so far. Is you're on this path, but then something comes along while you're going in certain direction, and it kind of veers you off and leads you to something better. And maybe the UFC is gonna, like you said, there's nothing planned, but it's something's gonna come along while you're on your journey.
Yeah, I think I say it's luck, but I think you do create your own luck in a lot of ways. I've had a lot of lucky breaks. I've had a lot of bad, unlucky stuff too. But I think just the way that I communicate, interact with people, and how I work hard and show how bad I want things, I think I've been able to get a lot of help from a lot of people and be really lucky in a lot of ways. And I don't want to say it's because of me, but I also don't want to say it's just like pure luck either. I think you make your own luck in a lot of ways.
You get into the UFC, there's a lot of, the lightweight division is stacked, crazy, all different types of fighters. But there's a few guys out there that are submission artists, you know what I mean? Like yourself. So who would you like to fight before they leave the promotion, a submission guy? And I was thinking Charles Oliveira sounds like a good matchup right there. Do you see a guy like that?
Yeah, I would. My buddy Kevin Lee just fought Oliveira,
Yeah.
and I think so. Actually, in one of my interviews, a few weeks ago, it actually got a lot of heat. I don't know if you watched it, but I basically was like, hey, like I think there's some guys in the top 10 that I would make it look easy. And looking back, I'm like, damn, I didn't explain that the right way. That's just because I have respect for everyone who I fight, even the guys I fought at this point who haven't been, obviously they aren't the caliber of the guys I want to fight, but I convince myself in my head that everyone's good, even if they're not. So I have the respect for these guys, but that's just my style. There are certain people with certain skill sets, and even if they have a good skill set, I have a style that I can pull something out of my ass at any time and make it look easy. I just can do that. I've shown that in my fights already, and I was able to do that in wrestling too. Everyone knew that, like, even if it's there was all Americans that I pinned, and then I would beat like a guy who was like 500 by like 2 points. Like, I've always had that kind of lights out style a little bit, at least when I was wrestling, and now I'm a little bit more calculated. I'm a little bit smarter. But I've always had the ability to kind of, especially now with the jiu-jitsu, being able to submit guys easily. And that has nothing to do with me being so much better than them or them not being good. It has just a lot to do with how I do things.
I'm very intrigued on like what you can accomplish in the UFC once you get signed, because you bring a unique combination of skills that hasn't come along. And and I want to see it. I want to see you fight the up and coming guys and build yourself up. That's what the excitement of the UFC is all about. You know what I mean? To see how fast you get to the top and who you can beat and how you can beat them. Max, man, thank you so much for the time, and good luck on getting signed. It's most likely going to happen this year with everything that's going on. And I'll reach out again and we'll do this again before you make your debut.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Had fun being on.